An economic boom for Mongolia is on the horizon as it sets out to tap its mineral wealth. Is it about to go from being one of the poorest to one of the richest countries in the world?
It's a vast body of copper, of gold, of silver. They say it is the size of the island of Manhattan.
A deal between the government of Mongolia and the mining giant Rio Tinto could transform the country from one of the poorest to one of the richest per capita in the world. Mongolia, once thought to be cursed by being sandwiched between Russia and China, is now in a perfect position to exploit its untapped mineral wealth. Gold, silver, copper, tin, tungsten and coal. The Gobi Desert has it all. And Rio Tinto is due to start mining it in 6 weeks' time. Once it's fully operational, it'll account to a third of the country's GDP. But a disagreement between the company and the Mongolian government over the mining revenues threatens the operation. Justin Rowlatt reports from Mongolia.
For millennia, the only people who've managed to eke a living from the Gobi Desert are nomadic camel herders. Not anymore.
Hush. Is that right? Hush.
Soon, the Gobi could be generating a substantial income for every single Mongolian, thanks to this. A new copper mine rising up from the desert scrub. It's causing controversy across the country, and not just because of the scale of the operation.
This is just the beginning. Underneath me is one of the largest untapped mineral reserves in the world. It's a vast body of copper, of gold, of silver. They say it is the size of the island of Manhattan.
The Anglo-Australian mining giant Rio Tinto has spent £4 billion on the Oyu Tolgoi mine so far and expects to spend a few billion more to get this place fully operational.
Now we have the toys, it's not just the same.
Saman Sandoj is a former yak herder turned geophysicist who's now vice president of the mine. He was part of the team that first discovered this vast deposit.
It was very exciting and it became more and more bigger and bigger and expanded. We're talking about 30 million tons of copper and more than 1,000 tons gold.
The revenue figures are pretty striking too. The mine is expected to generate more than £5 billion a year every year for the next 40 or 50 years.
1/3 of the GDP will be from this mine.
Hold on a second. 1/3 of the entire country's GDP from this one single mine.
But these are early days. Oyu Tolgoi produced its first copper, this rather modest mound of powder, during my visit earlier this year. The prospect of the profits from this place are already helping power an extraordinary economic boom in what was, until recently, one of the poorest countries in the world.
They've taken down the statue of Lenin that used to stand here. For 70 years, Mongolia was a rock-solid satellite of the Soviet Union, and the Communist Party that used to run it was based right here. Well, if you want to see how this country is changing, just take a look at its new neighbour.
A top-end mall packed with the world's most exclusive and expensive brand names. And just across the square is other evidence that the Mongolian boom is not all it seems. And they are off. Trading has opened on the Mongolian Stock Exchange, but this place is not exactly Wall Street. The Mongolian Stock Exchange is supposed to be driving the nation's new capitalist economy, and it has grown rapidly, but it is still one of the smallest exchanges in the world.
This stock exchange, stock market thing is quite a new thing in the country, but so far there's been only exploration, construction, development projects. There hasn't been yet any production or mining started yet. So with the start of mining, with the start of production of all those, the real boom will take place.
But that boom is desperately needed because of the deepening poverty elsewhere in Mongolia. It isn't just economics that's reshaping the country. Local people say the climate is changing too.
Mongolia has always suffered the occasional extreme winter. They call them zuds here, but they're becoming more frequent and they are helping drive a great exodus from Mongolia's countryside.
This migration to the city represents an incredible change in Mongolian society. They call this place the Gear district after the traditional round tents the nomads use. Once the morning smog clears, you get a sense of its real scale. A quarter of the entire Mongolian population has given up its traditional herding lifestyle and set up their gears in this sprawling shanty town. Sama and Oyu Tolgoi's story is typical. They were nomadic herders until disaster struck, a terrible zud.
Мал их ингээд сасрал хүүтэнд ингээд туугаал явж байгаад ингээд цуваагаараа явж байгаа тэгэл их хүүтэнд цасан зоогдол ингээд босоогоор өхөн. Хашаанаасаа гарахгүй тэжээл хөрөх байгаал.
Millions of animals have died in a series of these zuds over the last few years. For Sama and hundreds of thousands of other herders, it meant the end of their traditional way of life.
Одоо малчин хүндлэг энэ бол хамгийн уйтгартай, хамгийн гунигтай. Эд хөрөнгөгүй бол малгүй болохоор хүнчэд маань ч амьдрах хэцүү. Малаараа л хөрөнгө огшил хийж явдаг юм байсан. Манай чи өмнөний нэг айртай өмнөд нь ширээн аваад ирэхээр манай энэ ойл яа.
Амар хэцүүс. За энэ л нэг ондорчих байх гэхээр л амар гой хайнгийн шар, хайнгийн үнэж өгчөж байгаа.
But Sama and Oyu Tolgoi haven't lost touch with their roots. They've invited me to a concert of Mongolian folk music in town. But it is the mineral boom that's preoccupying some of Mongolia's other musicians. G is a rapper who's sceptical about the benefits of opening up Mongolia to foreign mining companies. Well, most Mongolians would disagree with you. They'd say they want the money, they want to buy a television, they want a nicer house, they want the things that the resources can bring. People in the Ger district, for example, you know, who are very poor.
I'm from the Ger district.
You're from the Ger district?
Yeah. Ger district is my hood. I'm from the Ger district.
That may be so, but the fact is a third of Mongolian families still live below the poverty line. Ulaan Baatar's shanty towns have no sanitation, no formal electricity grid, and few roads other than dirt tracks. Just before the general election last year, politicians bowed to the pressure to spend, awarding every Mongolian adult a one-off payment worth hundreds of pounds.
What did you spend the money on? What did you do with it?
Тэр мөнгөөр өөр ач нартай хувцас авчих, өөрснөө хувцас авсан. Тэгэл ойр зүрийн хэрэглээнд хэрэглэсэн. Тэг хэрэг болсон. Их мөнгө.
Do you think that's the right way for the government to use the money from Mongolia's mineral wealth?
Энэ зөв биш ээ. Энэ мөнгөөр манайд өгсөн мөнгөөр сургууль соёл цэцэрлэг яаж эмнэлэг барьсан бол их тааламжтай байх байлаа. Тэгээ мөнгөний авсан чинь биднүүд баярлалаа л гэнэ.
The payment also made the investors in Mongolia's mining industry anxious. The money came from another mine in the Gobi, a vast coal mine. It helped create a cash crisis that led to a temporary shutdown. And now the government has Mongolia's biggest mine in its sights. Oh, it is a bit chilly today, minus 27. And this wedding cake of a building is the Mongolian Parliament and Presidential Palace. And the current government looks set to bow to the temptation to spend the profits of Mongolia's mineral wealth today. It's written a couple of $100 million of extra income from Oyu Tolgoi into this year's budget. Income that depends on a renegotiation of the contract with Rio Tinto. A renegotiation that hasn't taken place. So where does the new Mongolian president think that money is going to come from?
I think we are now going to negotiate that. And our government doing that.
So is that a renegotiation of the contract?
We never say that from our government, and from myself, you know, we never say that reopen or renegotiate that contract.
But you're saying you want hundreds of millions of dollars more from Rio Tinto. I mean, that is a change in the contract, isn't it?
No. I think that's not changing the contract.
Of course, viewed from Rio Tinto's London headquarters, the perspective is very different.
It's a good project. It's good for Mongolia, it's good for Rio Tinto, and what I need to ensure is that our shareholders are protected. Certainly we're in discussions with the government of Mongolia, but importantly, recognise that this is a major project. It will be 30% of the country's GDP. Speaking on behalf of Rio Tinto, and in fact commenting on behalf of other people who are investing in Mongolia or potentially investing, certainty is absolutely critical when you're bringing on projects of this scale.
The implication is clear. When you're investing billions, you don't take it kindly if the government changes the rules halfway through. Isn't there a danger that Mongolia gets a reputation for being unreliable, not sticking to its agreements?
You know, Mongolia is not a lawless country. Change has to come to mining business. Why Mongolian people have that kind of resource nationalism, I am not calling that. Our people have that, but our people more informed, just more informed, more educated. And because of that, those people are asking more questions. Why is this happening? Why you guys in the government not addressing those issues?
It should be no surprise that Mongolians are demanding a proper account of their giant new mine. But this is a dangerous game. Mongolia needs partners like Rio Tinto if it's to exploit its mineral wealth. And if it starts to break contracts and demand extra cash, it may find the big mining companies don't want to play ball.
Ирээдүйн сайхан болох байх гэдэгт найдаж байна. 20 жилийн дараа бидний үр хүүхдийн хүүхдүүдийн үед бол зөв сайхан одоо ингээд эх орноо удирдаад зөв сайхан ажиллаад явбал сайхан болох байх уу? Сайхан ирээдүй хүлээж байгаа гэж найдаж байна.
The danger is, if the government misjudges its hand, the Mongolian mineral boom could disappear back into the desert sands.